I was hoping.
I now call the committee to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Towns,
Present.
Mr. Kandrowski, Ms. Maloney, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Kucinich, Mr. Tierney, Mr. Clay, Ms. Watson, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Cooper, Mr. Connolly, Ms. Norton, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Davis, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Cuellar, Mr. Hodes, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Welch, Mr. Foster, Ms. Spear, Mr. Driehaus, Mr. Issa. Here. Mr. Burton, Mr. McHugh, Mr. Micah, here. Mr. Souter, here. Mr. Platt, here. Mr. Duncan, Mr. Turner, Mr. Westmoreland, Mr. McHenry, Mr. Bilbray, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Flake, Mr. Fortenberry, Mr. Chaffetz, Mr. Schock, Mr. Tierney, (15) present, Mr. Chairman. What is your name? I don't have a name. Schock? You're not recorded, sir.
Now present.
You're here. Oh, present. Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Watts.
Ms. Watson. Ms. Watson has
Watson.
arrived. Ms. Watson is here.
16 present, Mr. Chairman.
A quorum having been established, I'd like to welcome all of you to our first meeting of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. I want to thank the members for coming today and assisting in the committee to organize for the 111th Congress. Before we turn to our business, I want to make a few comments. I'm very excited about the role that this committee will play in the 111th Congress. We have both the opportunity and the obligation to oversee the federal government during a critical time for America. I look forward to working together with each of you, Democrats and Republicans, to move an agenda that works for the very people who sent us to Washington. There has been a lot of speculation about how this committee may change with a new chairman, new ranking members, and new administration. And let me be clear, congressional oversight will not go away just because the administration and the Congress are run by the same party. I think even many Republicans would agree now that more oversight of the Bush administration would have benefited everyone. Good oversight is how we expose and solve small problems before they become big problems. And Congress has a responsibility under the Constitution to be a check on the executive, and we will do that. I think the country wants President Obama to succeed, and to do so, he needs people telling him which programs are working and which programs are not working. That is the role that our committee will play in the 111th Congress. I want to welcome the ranking member, Darrell Issa. We share the same goal of making government more open and less wasteful, and plan to work together in a bipartisan manner. I am encouraged by the thoughtful and productive input he has provided over the past few weeks, and hope we will continue to have a strong working relationship. There is no doubt that we will disagree, and I understand that. That is the very definition of politics. Support some things and not support others. But we want to handle any differences in an open and honest way, and I hope all the committee members will share that view. I will now yield to the ranking member to make his opening remarks. Congressman Issa from California.
Thank you, Chairman Towns. Let me begin this first meeting of Government Reform Committee by congratulating you on your new post. As you know, you and I both have very large shoes to fill. Your predecessor, Chairman Waxman, did a great deal of good work in expanding the jurisdiction, the reach, and the, if you will, the public excitement on what this committee could and should do. My predecessor, for his 6 years, both as chairman and as ranking member, did a great deal to reform government, to shed light on waste, but more importantly, to begin to have this committee recognized as a committee that is not Republicans against Democrats, but in fact, Congress doing its job as the board of directors of the USA, Inc., actually looking into the bureaucracy and reporting both to our fellow congressmen and women and to the President on failures of that large bureaucracy which knows no party and respects no administration. President Barack Obama has laid out an ambitious agenda to create an unprecedented oversight, bipartisanism, and transparency. And I applaud his repeated statements, both at the inaugural, where we sat and listened to a crowd of 2 million applaud the President, when in fact he, for the first time in my recollection, included our committee in his very opening thoughts to the American people. Mr. Chairman, the General Accountability Office Inspector Generals have made thousands of outstanding recommendations. As you know, Chairman Waxman left a report of nearly 13,000 such suggestions that have not yet been complied by the outgoing administration. This is not unreasonable oversight on the new administration as they begin doing their important work, but I know that you and I will look forward to working together to make sure that 13,000 becomes 5,000, 4,000, and eventually 0. I know there will be new recommendations, and I hope that on a bipartisan basis, we will in fact look at them openly and not with regard to whose bureaucracy they're referring to, because as I said earlier, former Chairman Davis, then Ranking Member, and Chairman Waxman made it very clear that we are the committee that looks at the bureaucracy as the challenge, not as who happens to occupy the White House. In closing, I want to take this opportunity to personally thank Ranking Member Davis, who is now retired, who has been my mentor for 4 years on this committee, and who made it possible for me to, quite frankly, get here far before my time by giving me opportunities to show what I could do and giving me the guidance that allowed me to have this opportunity here today. Mr. Chairman, you may have noticed that I took the opportunity also to ask my existing staff to come out. This is not the entire complement, but it's as close as we could come. I will tell you that every member there is pledged, every staff member is pledged to work with your staff on a nonpartisan basis. These are professionals, they're not politicians, and they look forward to working with your staff in order to do the work of the people. With that, I yield back.
Right. Thank you very much, Congressman. And that's an impressive-looking group.
They do look good.
The committee will now consider the resolution containing the rules of the committee for the 111th Congress that has been distributed to all members. The committee's rules describe procedures for committee and subcommittee hearings, meetings, and other proceedings, among other provisions. The rules we are considering today for the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform in the 111th Congress are identical to the rules in the 110th Congress, with one exception. The ranking member, Mr. Issa, proposed an addition to the rules that would require the results of committee roll calls, votes, to be posted on the committee website within 3 days. This change has been adopted by other committees. I've accepted Mr. Issa's suggestion and included the change in the rules package now before us. I yield to Mr. Issa for any comments on the rules.
Well, Mr. Chairman, obviously you and I lived under the rules of the last Congress, and I believe that the one suggestion related to Rule 18 and the website is simply a continuation of government transparency, which you have always been for. I know that both of our committees looked thoroughly at the rules and realized that they were, in fact, historically balanced and giving both the majority and the minority full opportunity. On some of the items that were not in the rules, we've had conversations both between the two of us and with staff, and believe that these procedures that can be used to facilitate smooth and more effective hearings will be used, and we believe that those will be positive in every way. Once again, I'd like to commend you for the one rule change that we did ask for, giving greater transparency and allowing us to, if you will, to tell the American people what we've done sooner. And yield back.
Thank you very much. And let me just say that to the, let me, yeah, I understand that you have some questions about the rules.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I'll be delighted to yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There we go. There's always the part that's yellow marked, Mr. Chairman. And continuing in that same spirit, Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you on several agreements that you have made and we've reached beyond the rules of the committee that we're voting on today. In my estimate, these greatly increase the productivity of the committee and will change how the majority and minority works together. The first agreement is on the use of the official committee memo on hearings required by the rules. At times in the past, the circulated hearing memo was not the real official memo, and we would wake up in the morning of the hearing to find a new or supplemental memo was circulated, greatly changed in the tenor or direction of the hearing. It is my understanding that this will not be the practice and that supplemental memos will be the exception and not the rule. We certainly understand, of course, that new facts that are relevant can come to light, but that these documents would not be used in a got-you type manner. I understand that to be correct. I would yield to the chairman.
Yeah. We will comply with the rule requiring the hearing memo to be distributed 3 days in advance. And I understand the ranking member's concern about information not being shared until the last minute, and I understand that. Well, with the understanding that sometimes we don't learn about information until the last minute. The majority will share information about our hearings with the minority in advance to the maximum extent of our ability. We will try very hard to make certain that when we get it out. On the topic of advance notice, I would also ask all members to avoid last-minute amendments at markups as well. It is better for everyone if we can discuss amendments in advance so that any technical problems can be worked out. If we are not aware of amendments in advance, it is difficult for us to accept them because we just don't have time to determine if they create a problem with our jurisdiction or with the CBO score or other issues. So even if it is a good policy, sometimes I can't support it if we don't have notice. I would encourage all members on both sides to share their ideas for amendments ahead of time so we can work cooperatively to improve legislation, and that's what we hope to do. I yield back to the gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I totally concur on the amendment sharing, and will ask all of my members to prepare from the moment that they receive the briefing memo, presumably 3 days in advance, to prepare their amendments or comments for hearings so that we can make sure they're germane. In the case of markups, we will ask the same thing, that they prepare them in a timely fashion, vet them through first our staff to see if in fact they are germane. Once we believe they are, then immediately share them with the majority so that we can reach a common agreement that they are appropriate jurisdiction. And if at all possible, in every case, I hope to put them into the manager's amendments, thus saving the time of all of our committee members and getting good bills to the floor quickly. And I thank the chairman for his leadership on both of these issues and yield back.
Right. Look forward to working with you. If it's no further discussion, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform adopt the resolution as the rules of the committee for the 111th Congress. Without objection, the resolution is adopted. Subcommittee membership. The committee will now consider a resolution approving the membership of the subcommittees, which has been provided to all the members today. I will introduce the subcommittee chairs and will let Mr. Issa introduce the ranking minority members as well. We have 5 subcommittees, and the Subcommittee on Domestic Policy, chaired by Representative Dennis Kucinich of Ohio. The Subcommittee on Federal Workforce and Postal Service and the District of Columbia, chaired by Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts. The Subcommittee on Information Policy, Census and National Archives, chaired by Representative William Clay of Missouri. And the Subcommittee on Government Management, Organization, and Procurement is chaired by Representative Diane Watson of California. And the Subcommittee on National Security and Foreign Affairs, chaired by John Turney of Massachusetts. We have a talented, experienced group of chairs, and I look forward to working with them in this Congress to accomplish a wide range of legislative and oversight goals. There's no question about it. So I yield now to Congressman Issa to introduce the subcommittee ranking members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I, too, am very excited that we've been able to reach, both from within our committee and from members who were willing to give up work on other committees to come here to be ranking. And in our case, we're also appointing vice-ranking members of the committee so that we will have 2 people at the dais who consider this to be their most important part of their congressional work. With that, on domestic policy, we will have Mr. Jim Jordan of Ohio, who will be ranking, and Mark Souder of Indiana, who will be sub-ranking. As you know, Mr. Jordan has been a longtime member of the committee and very active, and also serves on judiciary. For the federal workforce, Mr. Jason Chavez will be ranking. As you know, he is a new member who recently came but was excited and very much asked this committee be his first committee. So we now have someone who recognizes this is the A committee of the new Congress. Mr. John McHugh, who is ranking on armed services, has agreed to serve as vice ranking on federal workforce. This is a subcommittee he served on for his entire time in Congress and has been very active. And as you know, postal issues at this time of reduced volume are going to be extremely important to this committee. On government management, returning is Congressman Brian Bilbray, who is formerly of the Energy and Commerce Committee and who has been active on this committee since he returned to Congress. He will be ranking on this committee. Congressman Bilbray of an adjacent district to mine in California, of course, has been both a longtime member of Congress and before that a county supervisor and a city mayor. And Aaron Schock will be vice ranking member. He's a new member of Congress. I must admit, one of the younger members of Congress, but he comes with a great deal of zeal from Illinois 18th District. On information policy, I'm very proud that Patrick McHenry has decided to make this his one and most important committee and to focus on it, particularly focusing on the need for an accurate census. The vice-ranking member will be Lynn Westmoreland. Both of them have been active in the previous Congress in looking at the problems that the census has had in getting a new technology to bear. Last, and certainly our largest subcommittee, Jeff Flake, who has given up other committee to come here and who has long been somebody who has been known for absolutely calling out wasteful earmarks and spending at Congress, is going to oversee that subcommittee as ranking member with Todd Platts, who's previously served on subcommittee as his vice ranking. And Mr. Chairman, we believe we've given you a good lineup of people who will attend the meetings and be active participants. I yield back.
Right. Thank you very much, Congressman Issa. I now ask unanimous consent that the committee approve the resolution on subcommittee memberships. Without objection, the subcommittee memberships are approved. Oversight Plan. I now call upon the committee Oversight Plan. I ask unanimous consent that the report considered as read and open for amendments at any time without objections. So ordered. The Oversight Plan we are considering today discusses many of the subjects the committee intends to pursue. It is not an exclusive list, however, and the committee will retain the flexibility to investigate matters that merit examination as they arise and to readjust the investigative priorities. The plan consists of topics selected in consultation with the committee's ranking member, the subcommittee chairs and ranking members, and other members of the committee. The plan incorporates a number of worthwhile oversight initiatives urged by the minority. The plan identifies the key areas of the committee's focus in the coming years. Most importantly, at the present time, the plan calls for extensive oversight of the financial sector, rescue plan, and any economic stimulus package that is enacted. We have worked to ensure that